Hi and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Karina, and I'm an educator here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. And today, inside the studio, I'm joined by my friends Isabel and Jeanette, and today we are going to be talking about the wonderful world of sharks. Now, if you have not joined us for an Aquarium Online Academy before, then let me give you a quick rundown of how this program works. Now, we are live, we're broadcasting live from Long Beach at the Aquarium of the Pacific, and we would love for you to interact with us. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have concerns of any sort, if you want to help make some observations with me, then you're absolutely welcome to do so, and we definitely encourage it. If you want to, you can go ahead and text us at this number here, which is 562-286-1838, and my friends are going to be monitoring that text line, so you can absolutely ask those questions, make those observations there. And if you are watching this after today, I believe today is November 18th, and it is 10 a.m. If you're watching it after the fact, then you're also welcome to share those questions or those observations. Just do so via email. So go ahead and email us down here at live@lbaop.org. Now, once again, I am so excited to be here telling you all about these amazing sharks that we're going to be exploring today. And the first way that we kind of get into doing that in this setup is by learning how to make observations. Now, that might be a word that you're familiar with, and you may have heard it before, especially if you've tuned into one of our live sessions before. But an observation is just something that we can make using one of our five senses. Now, here, I would strongly encourage you to probably use your eyesight. It might be a little bit hard to reach out and touch the screen or taste the screen even. So go ahead, use your eyesight for all of the things that we're going to be exploring today, and help me to make some observations to tell me a little bit more about what it is that you're seeing, and I'll be able to do the same. That's kind of how we like to warm up our brains here, and it's something that scientists do every single day. And I know each and every one of you are a scientist watching at home, so we're going to practice what it takes to be a scientist. Now, my friend Isabel is going to take us into one of our exhibits here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. We actually have live webcams that you can see any hour of the day, and you can go find that on our website, aquariumofpacific.org, or you can also go to explore.org to find our webcams there. Now, this one behind me here, this is of one of our exhibits called Shark Lagoon. Now, Shark Lagoon is where we have a majority of our larger sharks. We also have some smaller ones that are not on the camera right now that you could touch if you come here to the aquarium. But now that we can kind of see what our Shark Lagoon looks like, I'm going to go ahead and hop off the camera here, hop off the screen, and I want you to start making those observations. So I'll guide you through it a little bit, but remember, an observation is just something you notice, a way to describe the world around us. So like I said, we're going to be using our eyesight to make those observations today, and I just want you to tell me what you see. Now, once again, this is an interactive session of our Aquarium Online Academy, and I would love for you to let us know what you're seeing. Remember, if you'd like to chat with us, go ahead and text that number, 562-286-1838, and let us know what you see. Now, one of the things that I see kind of right off the bat is water. Right? You are probably seeing that too, or you might not even noticed it's there just because you know that these sharks need water. But I know they're swimming around in water, and that's something they absolutely need. So I always love to include it in my observations. What else might we be seeing, my friends? What do you think? I definitely see some sharks. I see some sharks swimming around here in our Shark Lagoon. Now, you might also see some sharks. I know we also have, I think we just had one big one go right past the screen here, and then it went away as soon as I came on screen. Let me move out of the way one more time. I see actually a big stingray that just moved off screen. Most of our sharks are kind of hanging out towards the back right now. Let's see if we can get another one up close and personal. Now, this camera here is situated right by a window. Oh, look at that. Look at that. that is a really good view of one of our sharks that just swam past our screen as well. Now we have a couple different species of sharks that live here in our Shark Lagoon habitat, but before we get into different types of sharks, maybe where they live, things like that, I want to ask a question for my friends out there. For all of the scientists watching in, what is a shark? What do we think? Does anyone know? How would you answer that question? What is a shark? Now, I think of a shark, I think it's an animal. It absolutely is. We're an animal. What makes us different? Are we the same kind of animal? I don't think I look like a shark. I don't know. Well, sharks, they are actually types of fish. Now, you might not realize it. You might think fish and sharks are way different, but they're actually the same kind of animal. There are some differences, though, but most of the things that they have are actually, they have in common. So sharks and fish, they are the same thing. But sharks are a very special type of fish. They are a type of fish that does not have bones. What? They do not have a single bone in their entire body. Do we have bones, my friends? Let me know. Do we have bones? Let me feel. I feel some bones in my head. I feel on my noggin right here, my skull. Definitely something hard there. Maybe here if I feel my fingers move, I can kind of feel there's something hard in there. So how is it possible that an animal doesn't have bones, but is still kind of solid and can move around and have a certain shape? Well, these sharks, they don't have bone, but they have something else, and that is called cartilage. We have cartilage in our bodies. One of the main places that we have cartilage that I like to point out is our nose. So if you at home want to wiggle your nose for me, my little scientist friends, or maybe your ear, I like to wiggle my ear. That's also made up out of cartilage, and you might notice it's a little bit more bendable, it's a little bit more flexible, and that's what sharks are made up of. Their entire body is made out of cartilage, and that's why when you see something like a shark or even a ray, which is very, very closely related to sharks, they look like they're kind of flying in the water, and they can move their bodies in ways that maybe some other animals that have hard and rigid bones can't really do. So now we have a really good basic understanding of what a shark is, and we know for sure it is a type of fish that has no bones, right? Instead, they have cartilage. Now let's think a little bit more specific about where these sharks might live. Now here is our Shark Lagoon. All of these sharks that we're seeing live in Shark Lagoon, but their habitat is actually somewhere we're trying to emulate or to recreate their habitat, which is out there in warmer tropical waters. Now I said a word there that might be new to you, and that is habitat. Now what exactly is an animal's habitat? Let's think. First of all, if you haven't heard this word before, or maybe you haven't seen it written out, go ahead and say this word with me here. This is habitat. All right, you try it at home now. Let's hear it. Awesome. Good job, my friends. Now we know this word. This word means an animal's home, or where an animal or an organism lives. That is its habitat. Right now, my habitat is the studio here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. But when I go home, I live in a house, and that's my habitat, right? Or maybe when I walk outside, I live in California, so I have a really beautiful sunny habitat. And that's going to be different for different kinds of sharks. They're going to find themselves in different areas of the ocean. Now, different sharks that live in different places, they have something else that helps them to survive in those specific habitats. And that, my friends, that is called an adaptation. Now, an adaptation is something that an animal has on its body or about itself to help it to not only survive in its habitat, but to thrive there too. Now, once again, this might be a new word for you, so I'm going to say it and then I want you to say it after me, okay? This is adaptation. Your turn. Very, very good. Now we know this word. Let's go ahead and get to start talking about some of these animals and different types of sharks that live in different areas. Now, one of the sharks that you might see here in Shark Lagoon that might kind of hang out towards the bottom is actually my very favorite type of shark, and it is called a zebra shark. Let's see if my friends can pull up a picture of a zebra shark for us here. Oh, look at that! This right here, my friends, this is a zebra shark, and they are adorable. I love zebra sharks. Now, one thing that you might notice on our zebra sharks is that they have, some of them, they have stripes. It looks like in this picture they definitely have some stripes. But do you see that they have spots on their bodies too? So why are we calling it a zebra shark? If you think about a zebra, I don't think we have a picture of a zebra, but if you close your eyes and you imagine a zebra, it's like a horse with stripes. So why in the world are we calling an animal that has spots a zebra shark? Well, my friends, they do have stripes, especially when they're first born. So when they're first born, when they are, oh, perfect picture, this is an amazing picture. Let me scooch out of the way just a tiny bit here. This is a picture of two of our baby zebra sharks, and they have stripes just like a zebra does. Now, we actually here in the United States are some of the only place in the world that calls them zebra sharks. Other places in different parts of the world, they call them leopard sharks. But here in California, we have leopard sharks, so we had to come up with a new name, and lucky for us, they do have stripes when they're first born. Now, you might be wondering, why does an animal like this have stripes? Maybe does it have something to do with where it lives? Oh, this is another really cute picture. Let me scoot out of the way real quick here. This one right here is a great picture of those stripes and how they slowly start to become spots. Now, an animal like this, a lot of times, if you see the pattern of an animal, it actually can tell you a lot about where they live. So this animal, our zebra sharks, they have stripes, especially when they're first born, and they are living in coral reef communities, where there's lots of different types of coral in their habitats. Coral that can have long, kind of finger-like projections, and they look like stripes. So sometimes zebra sharks will actually hide in between the coral reef and use their stripes to blend in just a little bit. Now, as we move on, as we see those stripes as they age kind of turn into spots, what else do we notice about their body? We now know they have stripes that turn into spots. We know they live in those kind of warmer areas, but what else about them? I think there was a picture earlier that my friend had up of the underside of their body. Let's go back to that one real quick, because the underside of their body can show us where their mouth is. Now, is our mouth on the underside of our body? No way, right? That would look pretty silly if we had little mouths on the bottom of our feet, right? That would not taste very good when we're walking in our shoes all day. Our mouth is right here because we have hands to bring our food to our mouth. But these zebra sharks, they don't have hands, right? And they actually find their food on the bottom of the seafloor in those coral communities. Now, when we see those this mouth placement, it can tell us a lot about what they eat. Now, I actually have a sample of a zebra shark jaw. So I'm going to move us over to our document camera, and let's see what this jaw might look like. Beautiful. Now, this here is a zebra shark jaw, and you might notice it looks a little bit different than some other types of shark jaws that you might be familiar with. Let me zoom in just a tad bit here to get a little bit closer, up close and personal with their teeth. Now look at these teeth. Now, my friends, are these teeth big or are these teeth small? What do you think? Remember, you're always welcome to share your observations or your questions with us, because this is a live program and we love when you do that. So go ahead and text that number that we had at the beginning. Now, if you notice, these teeth are actually quite small. Let me zoom in just a tiny bit more. I know we're probably getting closer to a shark mouth you've ever gotten before. This here can prove to us that these animals are not eating really huge things. They have really small teeth and quite a small mouth as well. And they are using these teeny tiny teeth that are a little bit more flat. They do have some sharp edges for sure, but they're not huge, right? They're not like big canine teeth like dogs have, or maybe some larger sharks have. And that can tell us a lot about what they're eating. So these zebra sharks, they find themselves hanging out towards the bottom of the coral reef communities and areas nearby because they find their food there, and they're going to be using these smaller teeth to crunch up some of those harder items. So some things that they might find at the bottom of those coral communities that have harder shells. So maybe crabs or clams or other types of animals that are quite hard for maybe some other animals to get to. But these animals are really well adapted to eating hard-shelled items because they have lots of smaller teeth. Now, we can tell by their mouth placement what they eat. We can tell kind of by their teeth what they eat. So let's see if we can look back at a picture of our zebra shark and see something else notice something else about its body that can help tell us about where it lives. All right, let's see. Bring up our zebra shark picture once more. Now, this is that same picture that showed us that its mouth is kind of on the bottom side of its body. Now, quite small, right? So not eating some huge things that it might have to take big bites out of. What about their eyes? Do we see this right here? Does a zebra shark have a big eye or a small eye? What do we think? Give us a second. Now, I think we can tell, even just comparing it to my eyes. I have quite big eyes, I've been told. And if you see here, this is a bigger animal than I am. These zebra sharks, they can get to be anywhere between about 8 to 12 feet. I'm about 5 feet tall, and I have bigger eyes than this thing. So, zebra sharks, they have quite small eyes. Now, why might that be? Why would an animal have small eyes, be adapted to having smaller eyes? Well, my friends, that's because it is doing its best for it in its habitat. Now, these animals, like we said, they live in coral communities, and one thing that coral habitats have is they have lots of sunlight. So their eyes don't have to be super big because there's so much light in their habitat. Now, if you've ever noticed when you go outside and it's really, really bright and your eyes start to you kind of want to shield your eyes from the light, or maybe if you've gone outside with a friend or a parent or something like that, or a family member, and you see their eyes dilate or kind of contract or expand depending on how much light there is, that's actually one way that we can tell that these animals live in an area where there's a lot of bright light. It's because their eyes are kind of small. They don't really need to have big eyes because there's so much light in their habitat that it might overwhelm them if they had eyes that were a little bit too big. Pretty interesting, right? How looking at an animal can tell you a lot about where it lives. Now, I think we've learned a lot about zebra sharks here, and we might have time to go back to them in a little bit because there's just so much to talk about. But let's move on to another shark friend. Now, we've seen these zebra sharks, and there's lots of other sharks in the ocean to explore. So let's see what my friend Isabel and Jeanette, what they have pulled up for us. Let's give them a second. Let's see what there might be. Ooh, look at this. This, my friends, is a mako shark. And we can already tell just by looking at them that it looks a lot different than our zebra shark friend that we just saw, right? Its body shape is different, its coloration is different, its face is so much different than our zebra shark. So let's see, where do we begin? Now, right away, I'm noticing that it has a much bigger eye, right? This eye is huge. Now, their eyes have to be super big because they want to be able to find all of the light in their environment. They need to be able to see. And these animals, they don't live in the coral communities quite as much. Instead, they're kind of hanging out further out in the open ocean. Now, the further you go out into the ocean, as well as the deeper you go out into the ocean, the less light there is. So these animals, they want to be able to find their food. They want to maybe be able to avoid anything bigger than them. And so they have to have big eyes in order to do that. Now, this one right here is a really good example of how big an animal's eye can be and how much that can help them in their environment or in their habitat. Now, what about their mouth? Does their mouth look a little bit different than our zebra shark friend? What do we notice? Just by looking at this picture. Are their teeth big or small? What do we think? Let me move over to our document camera and see what we can find. Now, this is a much bigger jaw. Sorry, I'm actually going to have to zoom way out. We might not even be able to get the whole thing in one picture. Let me focus on the top part of the jaw real quick. Now, these teeth, they look way different than our zebra shark jaw. Just a refresher, this was our zebra shark jaw. Kind of small, smaller teeth. And look at our mako shark. Look at these teeth. All right, my friends, are we ready to answer that question? Is this animal's teeth, are they big or small? What do we think? They are quite big, my friends. Yes. Now, remember, if you have any questions or if you want to answer in, please do so at 562-286-1838. I'd love to hear from you all. But yes, these teeth are so much bigger than our zebra shark teeth are, and that can tell us a lot about what it eats. Remember? With our zebra shark, they have small teeth, and they are going to be eating things that are kind of small and kind of hard and crunchy. What about this animal? if it were trying to chew on something kind of crunchy, it might be hard for it because those teeth might break. Those long and kind of sharp and skinny teeth, they might break. So, this animal is going to be eating larger prey that they are going to take big bites out of. So mako sharks and things like thresher sharks that have a similar body shape and have similar mouths, they are going to be eating larger animals like larger fish and maybe even some marine mammals as well. So they are going to be taking big bites out of their food instead of crunching up little bits and pieces of some of those smaller hardshell items that our zebra sharks might be eating. All right, now we know a little bit about what they eat. We know what their jaw looks like. Let's take another look at one of those pictures of one of our mako sharks, or maybe even our thresher shark. Oh my goodness, this one right here is a thresher shark, a huge, huge win for the shark community. This is one of my favorite sharks also. I might say that about every shark we pull up because I love sharks. Don't we all? They're amazing. Now look at this animal. Look at how different it looks than our zebra sharks. First of all, we don't see any stripes, right? We're not seeing anything like that. Instead, we're seeing a kind of darker gray or bluish body. And then we're also seeing maybe a slightly lighter underside of its body, kind of where its belly is. You can see it right when the clip first starts to play. And that, my friends, when you see an animal that is kind of darker on the top and lighter on the bottom, or darker on one side and lighter on the other, that is called counter shading. That's actually a type of camouflage, and they are able to blend in. So if you were to imagine yourselves looking down at a shark, you might see a dark body on the top. It actually blends in nicely with the depths of the sea floor. But if you were to imagine yourself kind of under the thresher shark like that, and you see the light underbelly, that actually blends in nicely with the surface of the sea where there's lots of light coming in. So this type of camouflage is really beneficial, and lots of animals have it, including the thresher shark here. Now I'm going to step off the screen one more time because I want us to take a good look at this tail. Wow! Look at this tail. What do we notice about it, my friends? It's long! It's huge! That tail looks like it's actually maybe even the same size, or if not longer, of the rest of its body, which is exactly the case. Their tails, the top half of their tails, can be so long, can be longer than their body, and there is, my friends, a particular reason for that. You might be wondering, why in the world does it have a tail that long? Well, that can be one of the ways that they stun their prey. So as they're swimming around trying to find some food for themselves, they can use that tail to whack their prey and kind of stun them, make them a little bit scared, make their prey not be able to move or immobilize them, what is something we say, and then they can eat it. Right? So that is a really great adaptation that these zebra sharks have in order to stun or scare off their prey. I'm going to step off one more time before we say goodbye to our thresher shark, because look at this video. I'm going to give you a moment of silence here, but look at this video. All right, my friends. Now, I think this is just a really great way to send off our thresher shark. Okay, goodbye, thresher shark. I want to pull up some of our ways that we are what we are doing here at the aquarium to help these animals out. Now, I love sharks. Hopefully, you can tell, and maybe you do too. All the scientists at home, and that's amazing. The best thing we can do for an animal is care about it, is talk about it, is learn about it. And these sharks, unfortunately, they can face some rough times out there in the ocean. Now, as our waters start to change, and as we go in and fish, sometimes these animals can get caught and be taken in our nets as well, or maybe even sometimes the habitats that they live in might not be healthy enough for them to have enough food to eat. Now, one thing that I love about sharks is that they kind of act as like the trash men of the ocean. They are picking up all of the trash, or maybe all of the undesired items that live in their habitat. So what these animals do, sometimes they're not always going and attacking their prey like maybe a thresher shark might want to do. Sometimes they're going to act a little bit more like a zebra shark, and they're going to kind of hang out on the bottom of the sea floor, picking up whatever they can find on the bottom there. So sometimes they will catch some of those maybe sick or not so healthy fish that might really help out the rest of the environment to be taken out of there. So these sharks, they're eating kind of the undesired things, the things that might not be very healthy. When we want healthy fish in our ocean, right? We want healthy fish on our plate to eat as well. So these sharks, they're going in and they're taking all the things that aren't too healthy and could be clogging up our ocean with some not so great diseases and things like that. So sharks, they act like the garbage men of the ocean, taking all the undesired things away, which is a really admirable job, which I love to see here. Now, this is a video that I love to watch. It is a compilation of a couple different sharks eating, and you can tell how different their feeding strategies are just by the way that they grab their food. Now, one thing we do here at the Aquarium of the Pacific is with a lot of our sharks, with most of our sharks, we do something called target feeding. So we have maybe some trash grabbers, kind of like you saw in that last clip, or maybe we have a long stick with a little, zip tie off the end, and we put their food on that area, and then we by doing that again and again, they get trained to go to a certain location. So these sharks, believe it or not, they are trainable. Sometimes people think about fish and they think, oh, no way that fish can do tricks like my dog can at home, but they absolutely can. They're very, very smart animals, and they're definitely worth our protecting. Now, one of the things that we love to talk about here at the Aquarium of the Pacific is the way that we are doing a lot for these animals, especially out in their natural habitat. Now, one thing about our zebra sharks is that they lay eggs. Now, zebra shark eggs are very, very interesting. They're quite amazing. This is actually a really great picture of what one of those shark eggs looks like. Sometimes you might hear it referred to as a mermaid's purse. And this one here, it looks like it might be a bamboo shark egg, or maybe it is a zebra shark egg. They look very similar. And this one right here has all these like white kind of yellowy like little tendrils. They looks like a little clump. And that clump that you're seeing in this top corner, that's quite sticky. So zebra sharks and other sharks that lay eggs that look like this, they are going to do so in areas that they know that their egg can have a good chance of survival. So they lay them near corals or near rocks, and they make sure that they stick to those corals or those rocks so that their baby, when it hatches, is able to, hatch in a safe space and not just washed out into the open ocean where there might be lots of predators or no food availability. So these little baby sharks, they hang out in the coral areas. And, sometimes, unfortunately, the corals, it's not quite healthy enough to sustain our zebra sharks or some of our other coral sharks. And so that's one way that we can think about helping these sharks and conserving this animal as a whole is by conserving coral reefs. Now, coral reef habitats are some of the most biodiverse habitats on our planet, and they are home or nursery grounds to lots of animals like our zebra sharks here. Now, if you notice towards the bottom right here, those long kind of corals, or maybe this even plating coral that we see here, I myself have actually seen this zebra shark lay an egg right here in this coral area. And it does so by kind of hanging out, moving its body around, making sure that it's placing that egg in an area where it gets kind of tangled up in the coral. But what happens if there isn't enough coral there to support all of the zebra sharks laying their eggs, right? You might wonder, that's probably not really great for the habitat as a whole. You might have less and less zebra sharks. And that actually has been happening. We've seen a lot less zebra sharks in their natural habitat than we used to, just because of how their habitat isn't doing so great right now. Now, one of the ways that you can help, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is just by learning about it. So just by being here today and learning about the awesome world of sharks, you are doing your part. I really hope that you continue to do so. You maybe come to institutions like the aquarium, or you learn about it even by yourselves or at school or with your family and friends, because the more that we talk about these amazing animals and the habitats that they call home, the more that we are inclined to do something about it. And that is one way that you know that you're doing something is by learning. So go ahead, pat yourselves on the back. Good job being a scientist today. I hope you had lots of fun. And if you want to find out more ways that you can help our shark community or our coral community, or any questions or comments at all, please go ahead and at this time, go ahead and email us at live@lbaop. And we are so happy that you watched with us. I hope you learned something. And thank you so much for coming. We'll see you next time. And have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.